And we are live.
Oh, jolly good. Hello, folks.
Happy Tuesday.
Yes, happy Tuesday. Welcome aboard, everybody. Hope you're all spiffing and ready for. We've got a lovely guest for you today. At least I think he's lovely. I better not say that too much in case his wife's watching.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
because I'm old, I can get away with it.
You'd be so in contention with the gorgeous Brazilian lady he's married to.
Not. Yes. No,
yeah, I've known Quinn, and I've known Quinn for many, many years through our mutual friend, Steve Tyrell, friend and client. And Quinn was Steve's MD for, I think, 12, 14 or 16 years, a long, long time. And so that's how we originally met. And then also through Barry Coffing and Kevin Winard and all kinds of incredible jazz musicians and talented people. So Quinn is just back in from Dallas. He's going to tell us all about the jazz festival that he played this past weekend. And without further ado, things drop out the sky, streaming, clapping, and balloons and things, and confetti. I was going to say spaghetti.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Maestro Quinn Johnson. Hi, Quinn.
Hello.
Hey. How we doing?
Hi. Thanks for joining us. I know what a busy boy you are.
Well, here and there.
Yeah.
Which is very lucky.
Oh, yeah.
It's good to work. Everybody likes to work. I like to work.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
So where have you just been this past weekend? Tell us all about that.
I was in Dallas over the weekend with actually a British-based acid jazz funk band called Down to the Bone.
Ooh.
Yeah,
okay.
It's very funky, super fun. It's called the Riverfront Jazz Festival.
Oh.
Yeah, like Tower Power was there, Patrice Rushen. It was,
Oh, great.
Sandra Wilson. It was like, it was a real festival. So
Sandra Wilson. And didn't you say Norman Brown was there, or was that something?
Norman Brown was there on not the day I was there, but yeah.
He's amazing.
Many other. Oh, Sheila E. was on right after us.
Wow.
Gosh, she keeps working, doesn't she? She's so busy. Yeah.
Super high energy, that's for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. She's really a wonderful girl.
Yeah.
So where were you born and how the hell did you get started?
Well, see, that's a long story.
Okay. We got all day.
Come on, man.
Yeah. So, no, my dad was in the Army, and he was stationed in Germany. So I was born in Nuremberg.
Oh.
Yeah, in Bavaria.
Mm-hmm.
We left shortly after he finished his tour, and we moved around a little bit. Montana, then Japan a little bit. And then the Midwest. I spent sort of my formative elementary school years in Wisconsin. So small town Wisconsin.
Wow. Bit of a difference from Nuremberg and Japan.
Yeah. And then we ended up in England for a couple of years. My junior high years. Yeah, we were in Peterborough and in England for a couple of years.
I love that Peterborough. You go down there to see my daughter, isn't it?
Just up the A1 from y'all.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, we lived in Kings Lynn for a few years, which is just around the corner.
Okay. So yeah, that was a big eye-opening sort of.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, I turned 13 and live in Europe and.
Great.
Our Christmas vacation, we went to Austria to learn to ski.
Lovely.
Because I'm not going to Austria to learn to ski. So.
As you do, as you must. Yes.
Yeah, and it's not like high flying, super expensive stuff because everything's so close. You just drive there.
That's right. Yeah,
that's right. You find a little chalet and rent some skis.
Yeah. It was great.
Yeah. Have you spent any time in Vienna?
In Vienna. We were through Vienna, so we probably spent a day there.
Yeah. Oh, I love Vienna. Yeah.
We have a business partner in an office in Vienna.
Okay.
And got to spend quite a bit of time there a couple of years ago. But don't you think and that's what I love about you and your family when you travel. I mean, if you travel for work, you have to travel for work, but you all travel so much because it really does. They say it broadens the mind.
Oh, it sure does.
Ain't that the truth?
Oh, yeah. I mean, before I was even in high school, I'd already lived in several countries.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea.
It's just, you get a different sense of how things are in different places. That's all.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of make up your own mind.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Japan is still on my bucket list. I've not been, but people who, Westerners, friends of mine who've been there say it's almost like being on another planet because, the language is alien. You can't read anything.
Yeah. So Japan is fantastic. I was just there 2 or 3 months ago with the Pacific Jazz Orchestra at the Blue Note in Tokyo. And I've been there a bunch of times over the years, but it's kind of the easiest place to get that experience where it's completely foreign and totally different, but you're still going to be able to get around because so many people there, they're very helpful and very interested in doing such a great job at whatever their job is. And many people speak just enough English.
Yes.
And they're so used to tourists that, you know, you're going to be fine. It's not like going, if you want to go to some, you know, far east place, you might get, you know, more in trouble than in Japan, where I think everything's going to work out for you.
Right. And also, I mean, it just, and this is, you know, I'll probably get canceled for saying it, but at just a glance to a Japanese person, you are obviously not Japanese. You're a tourist.
Oh yeah. There's no pretending that you're, it's not like you go to Amsterdam and try to pretend that you're not an American, you know, it doesn't work in Japan.
No. But, you know, I can just imagine that nowadays with technology, you say that you've been to Japan several times. It must be easier with things like Google Translate and.
Oh, it's so easy comparatively, you know, like you mentioned my wife being Brazilian. We go down to Brazil all the time. And when we first started going, you know, we'd rent a car, and if you're lost, you're like lost.
You're lost.
But now the phone, I mean, the GPS and the translate and the whatever, it's so easy, you know.
Yeah.
And you were the person that turned me on to What 3 Words?
Yes, it's a fantastic thing. You know, it's funny because I turned you onto that, and then I hardly actually use it because the other person has to also use it, or it's
actually they don't now. You can.
Yeah,
they've got around that barrier, so you can just text anybody the What 3 Words of the GPS of where you are standing, and it'll just go as an SMS text.
That's great, because I mean, it's one thing to know sort of the corner or the address, but if you're in a huge mall or an airport or something, you can actually get down to 3 square feet of where somebody is. You know,
it's amazing. It's so kids who are watching, it's called What 3 Words, and it's free. It's an app in the App Store and the Google Play, and you download it, and you can literally just put a pin in a map of where you are. Text it to somebody. We used it actually at Agora a couple of weeks ago at the Nick Marichal gig, where we all were. I went off to get some food and try and find Greg something. And that mall outside the Canyon Club was absolutely packed. And Martin was outside the back having a cigarette. And he texted me, "Where are you?" So I just literally, I was in that front Mexican bar picking up a tortilla soup. And I just texted him where, and boom, there he is, all of a sudden beside me, beside the bar. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's. I mean, as much as I hate a lot of the technology, at least some of this stuff is helpful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's right. So, do you use? I mean, obviously, you are a maestro piano player.
As far as you say.
So it says here, allegedly.
Yeah.
What technology do you use when? Do you record at home, or do you only record in studios, or how do you?
All the above. I mean, I use Pro Tools when I have to. I use Logic if it's my thing. I've been using Logic for years and years since it was a German company, actually.
Yes.
So Logic, I use Sibelius for notational, you know, programs and, you know, all that stuff. I was just using MainStage, which is a performance-based program in Dallas. So it has all your sounds on the computer. You just plug the computer into the keyboard, and the computer's generating all the sounds.
Oh wow! So it's like the keyboard is like the MIDI controller.
Exactly.
It's like
so it works great as far as because all these kind of festivals, you show up and you only have maybe half an hour before you're on. You get on the stage. And so you can spend your time trying to find the sounds in whatever keyboard, even if you might have specified the keyboard, but maybe it's a different version. Maybe somebody reprogrammed it. I don't know. Then you're looking for sounds a little bit, which is crazy as you're setting up.
Right.
Or you can bring the computer, plug it in, and you have everything.
And what's that software called?
That's called MainStage. This is the one I use. There's several of these things. MainStage is the Apple. It's like Logic, basically.
Okay.
So you have all the sounds you have in Logic, or anything else you want to load in. You know?
So like strings and horns and.
Yeah, I mean, for down to the bone, it's basically Rhodes, Wurlitzers, pianos, you know, and clavs, like just all funky keyboard-based stuff.
Classic keyboard.
But it's like, so then I have everything that I'm used to playing coming out of the speaker instead of some other keyboard sound and.
Just unbelievable,
amazing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there goes, if Simon Mills is watching, there goes your gig as a grand piano mover. It's
Yes,
crazy.
I mean, now playing. Look, I would rather play a piano, but on this particular gig, so this gig was actually pretty cool. They had actually looked at the old writer, and we had an actual Hammond B3 on the stage.
Huh.
I was playing the B3. They had a Rhodes, and then I had the computer on a keyboard for the other stuff.
So do you know how to play a B3?
Sure. I'm not like the B3 master that Greg Matheson is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm more of a sort of a session B3, I guess. I'm not. I would never do a gig just on the B3.
Okay.
That's not my thing.
Right.
Just for sort of rock and roll or sounds,
Yeah.
in addition to like piano or Rhodes.
It's incredible to me when you look at the Hammond B3 organ, and there's still people like Joanne and Bill Axman schlepping those things around.
Yeah. Well, because it's a different thing. I tell you what, because I mean, right behind me is a digital clone wheel, which sounds great and it's a great instrument, but it's not really like playing a B3. It's the difference between playing a great keyboard with a great piano sound and a great piano. There's just a world of difference.
Yeah.
Right. With the weight and everything. And
just all of it. It's it's just better. But, the B3 is massive. It took like 6 guys to, sort of get it up there and strap it down.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what I can't believe about when we do Nick Marischal gigs. The Axman people that bring it. And let's not forget the rotating Leslie speaker. What do those things weigh? They got to be a couple of 100 pounds.
They are heavy enough that you don't want to move it yourself.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
But Joanne, the lady Bill's wife, shows up, and she's just at the other end of this 600-pound monster, and they move that thing like it's effortless.
Well, they have the sort of pulleys and gears and straps and the cart, and and you've done it, what to do and what not to do. It's like you see piano movers. You see 2 guys moving this huge piano.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, it's our aforementioned friend, Dr. Mills, Dr. Simon. He's got a Bosendorfer and I think Steinway in his apartment in New York. And he and his son Deco got them both up there in the service elevator. God knows how. But,
that's not for me. I quit doing that years ago. People call me to help move it. I'm like, I'm out of town.
Yeah. I'm having a mani-pedi that day. Sorry, can't help you.
Yeah.
That's wild. So go on. Your turn.
I was just about to say, Dr. Simon Mills, the last I heard of him a couple of days ago, is shooting around somewhere ridiculous on a motorbike. Where are you now, Simon?
Wyoming. Yeah, if you're watching, where are you?
Yeah.
What I was going to say is we know each other through Steve Tyrell, the incredible Steve. How did you first meet Steve? What's the backstory to all of that? Because you guys were working together for a long, long time.
Yeah. Let's see. How did that happen? I met Steve. He had a studio on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. Tyrell, man.
Yeah. And I got called in to do a recording session for, I think it was a Showtime show. I have no idea what the show was. They had the actress in, she was going to sing on camera. She's like in some piano bar and she's playing and singing or something. I don't know. But of course the actress doesn't actually play. So you pre-record all this stuff.
Right.
So they called me I just got called. I think the the mixer or the engineer knew me and they were looking for a piano player. I don't know. It was fairly last minute. Like, can you show up tomorrow? I'm like, okay, yes. And Steve was a producer. So we did this session for the TV show, and then he came in and said, hey, I've got this record coming out.
Hey, kid.
Yeah, I got this record coming out. And he gave me a copy. It wasn't even the full thing. It said, promotional only. It's not even hasn't even been, produced or,
Boston. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he said, I'm going to have to do some gigs. Would you want to sort of MD? So I actually MD'd the first gig.
Wow.
That he ever sang.
Wow.
He sang like as a kid in Texas.
Yes.
But then never did again, really, professionally.
Right.
And so we did his first the CD release party at the Borders Books and Music in Pasadena.
Good grief. I never knew that.
So this Borders, it was a pretty hip Borders. I mean, I kind of like those stores.
Yeah.
But it was like a 2-story, with the big staircase, and up top they had a piano. An actual piano was there all the time, and they had a little performance space. They would have things, and so that's where they put the thing on. I guess the record label had to deal with Borders to put it in all the stores.
Wow.
So the very first gig, and then the record label called me to were going to do a tour of the Borders Books of Music, and I was unavailable. I was going out with like Rita Coolidge and some other different people at the time. So they put together another band. So then I wasn't in the band. Then he called me a couple years later, and I started playing, and then, the
rest is history. Yeah, we went to the Borders at the Grove, the book signing at the Grove.
Oh, that's right.
Obviously we built the original, and still do, SteveTyrell.com 27 years ago.
Oh, geez.
We built his first website and still handle it today. But yeah, that's how long we've known Steve. And he was introduced by Barry Coffing, who runs MusicSupervisor.com and music and film and television. And Barry's also from Houston. And Barry followed Steve out here with a bunch of other people from Rice University music program, Bruce Atkinson and Everett Harp and a whole bunch of people. And I was introduced to Barry. We wrote a bunch of songs together, a couple of hits for Randy Crawford. And Barry was working at Tyrell Mann pretty much sort of on call as a songwriter and background singer for Steve. And that's how I met Steve, and that's how we met you.
Yeah. Well, Barry went with you to Russia, didn't he?
Yes, Barry went to Russia, came all the way from California through Munich. We flew to Moscow end of October, and I'm like, where's your winter coat? And he's like, oh, I didn't bring a jacket.
I sent him off in a long black woolen cloak of mine, would you believe?
He borrowed a coat
to Moscow.
And then they gave us Russian military coats, which were hip back then, but I wouldn't be caught dead in it now. But
yeah, it's too bad. I've been over there a couple times to play, and maybe not be going back, which is too bad.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Just craziness.
So our friend Elizabeth from Philly is asking, how did you first get interested in the piano as an instrument as opposed to like any other instrument?
Well, that was sort of forced on me, as it is for many young kids.
Yeah.
My parents are musicians, and we were all forced, the three of us, forced to take piano lessons.
Yeah.
So starting at the age of 4, my mom started teaching me, and then I got a teacher after that. And the deal was we had to take lessons until we were in the 8th grade, and then we could decide if we wanted to continue. So I hated it for a long time.
So 8th grade is like what, 14, 15?
14, yeah, 14. For me, I was 14.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I don't want to do this. I'd be throwing my books around the room and, trying to lie about practicing and the whole thing. But I did it, and I got better. And then by the time I was, 13, really, when we were in England, I was pretty good. I actually got a classical teacher, a real heavy English classical teacher. Like he wasn't just doing the not heavy like heavy, but like he was great. He was a serious person. And I started realizing that I was playing, Mozart and Beethoven the way that they wrote it.
Yeah.
Not like a watered down kids version or, pop version. And when you get good at something, you sort of start to like it. No matter what it is, if you're competent and like you start thinking, okay, I like this.
Yeah.
And then and it was junior high, and my dad was the band director.
Yeah.
At the school, and they had a pop jazz band.
Oh. So
we would do. Yeah, they didn't have enough kids good enough to have a full big band. So what they did is he put together like horns. Saxes and trumpets and trombones, but then like a rock and roll rhythm section. We did like Chicago, Billy Joel, but then we did In the Mood, and we did some Charlie Parker tunes too. And so I was playing, and we had some keyboards. So it was like I was playing Rhodes, and I was playing like synthesizer, and I was like, okay. And people go, yay, and I'm like, maybe this isn't so bad.
And then once you start getting 15, 16, you're like, maybe I can meet girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it works. I met my wife on a gig.
Okay, well, there you go. And so that was, Diana's asking, how did you specifically get interested in jazz? It was probably being thrown into this combo pop jazz. Yeah,
so that's a start. I wasn't really into straight ahead jazz when I was younger like that. But when we moved to California, I was 15. I got a teacher, and I knew that I wanted to be just as good as I could get, both playing and just being able to sit down and play anything. And it seemed to me that it was the jazz musicians that were able to do that, as opposed to classical or even rock musicians who were great musicians. But, you put something a little more complicated, or maybe it's
Yeah.
not. Maybe they won't feel comfortable. So I just wanted to be comfortable no matter what. So then I started studying Miles Davis and Bill Evans and stuff like that. So, and then again, once you start getting into something and you get pretty good at it, then then it really becomes something you listen to. But yeah, I was not listening to jazz records when I was 14. I was listening to Hall & Oates and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot more room for, and you probably don't know this about Angie, our regular viewers will know, when she was 13, she was the recipient, the youngest ever, still to this day, of the Royal Victoria College of Music in England, as qualified as a piano teacher at 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I should take a lesson.
Yes, indeed.
I don't think so.
Take a lesson in early morning Chardonnay drinking.
Yeah, right.
But if you've been in jazz bands, you probably don't need lessons. But I think you're right. With classical music, it is what it is, and there's no room for coloring in between the lines.
Yeah.
And rock and country music are pretty four on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
To me, jazz is the really only
improvisational. That's a good word, isn't it?
Genre that allows you to sort of color in between the lines, and then the band can all come back out of a 16 over 19 over 4 over 6/4 back to the beat, because you just kind of guys know where you're going.
Yeah.
But it lets you color outside the lines, doesn't it?
Yeah, it allows you you have all the harmonic knowledge and the facility, to sort of navigate all these various genres, which I just love. I don't want to be stuck. I can't do that because I can't play it. I don't want that to happen. Maybe I choose not to do that because I don't want to do it, but I could, or what I mean. So I want to have that ability. So I mean, I study like crazy to this day. Just
do you really? Good.
It's funny because I sort of neglected the classical thing a little bit. I mean, I learned to a point, but I didn't take serious classical lessons even in college. I sort of bailed on that and just started working. So in the last 10 years or so, I've really sort of buckled down and got back into the class just for the touch and, allowing the hands to really, play. So.
Wow. And you've done some gigs, speaking of serious music with lots of dots, you've done some gigs also in concert with our friend Mark Levang at the Hollywood Bowl and the Disney World. Tell us all about that. How did that come about, and what was the show?
The show was the Hollywood Bowl. Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I got called by a contractor, as you do for various recording sessions and things. And it was a week of work, 3 days of rehearsal, I think, at a soundstage. But it was the movie Encanto.
Oh, okay.
But the movie was already out, so I didn't play in the soundtrack. So what they do is they play the movie at the Hollywood Bowl, on these big screens, and then you have an orchestra play the soundtrack. So the sounds, nothing from the movie is being played. Well, the dialogue is being played and the sound effects. The music is done by the orchestra. So it was about this is because it was such a cultural phenomenon on Encanto that they were doing in LA. So they had all the original actors, voice actors, came out and they did dance numbers, and not just little dance numbers. It was a massive production. Of dozens and dozens and dozens of dancers and costumes and everything and lights, and it was totally crazy. The stage was basically the house from Encanto. If you can picture the whole thing,
how wonderful!
Yeah, it was awesome, and there was a couple 2 or 3 nights I can't remember doing it live, and then it's actually on the Disney Channel. You can see. You can see pictures of me hovering down over the keyboard.
How fantastic!
Yeah.
Were the family able to come and see it?
Yeah.
Oh,
they went and they saw it, and they said, "We didn't know where you were. It was so small. Our seats were so far back."
Well, they can get some popcorn and watch the Disney Channel. Yeah. And they only gave you 3 days rehearsal for something so massive?
I think it was 3 days. Well, I think it was. I don't remember. Well, I mean, look, everybody. It's a professional. It's a huge.
You need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, you go into the soundstage. It was like a movie soundstage. It was that big of a thing where the rehearsal was.
Yeah.
And the whole orchestra's set up, and then they have the whole dance floor and everything. And the text, I didn't even have. What was very cool is because it was a bunch of sounds. like, you know, because you're playing a bunch of, not just piano. I was piano, but then I was also a bunch of other sounds.
Oh, wow.
But they have a team who programs everything for you. So I just show up and the MacBook's all set, but they're there the whole time just to like tweak things and make sure everything's okay. There's just people, you know, doing this for you as because you're dealing with the headphones, and you see there's a monitor here with the movie on it, because the conductor is somewhere else. He's like far away from you, and you hear him, and then you see like the click on the monitor. It goes.
So it's like a visual metronome.
It's like doing a recording session, except that it never stops because it goes from, it just, and then the next page, and then you're like the next music, and then, you know.
Wow.
Good grief.
Wow.
It's fun. It's challenging, but it's, you know.
It must be.
How big was the orchestra? How many pieces do you know?
Oh, I don't know. It was probably 80.
Oh, damn.
Maybe I don't know how to. I didn't see all the strings at the same time.
Wow.
But, you know, like a bunch of percussion, and they had I was actually on the stage for this because I was part of the rhythm section. We were on the stage. The strings and the brass were sort of up in the back, almost kind of hidden up at the top. But they had Colombian percussionists and a Colombian harpist on the stage, because they did a bunch of like ethnic sort of Colombian music. That was the whole point of the thing, right?
Right.
So it was kind of fun.
So how would you explain what arranging is to somebody who doesn't have your musical background? And what do you remember your first arranging gig, and what was it?
First arranging gig, I don't even know. I mean, I was arranging stuff in like high school for me and the bands I played
that
in.
far back.
Yeah. So arranging is not composing. There's a song that already exists.
Yep.
Whether it's a song or a tune, or, you know, whether there's singing or not. And maybe you want to do it in a different way. It's like cover stuff. You want to do a cover, but you don't want to just copy what's already there. Or it's the instrumentation is different than the original. Right. Maybe the original is just a punk tune or something, but now you've got two saxophones and, you know, no
trombone.
Yeah. So then you can either just sort of figure out what to do, or you can have an arranger write things down and figure out in your mind ahead of time before you get to rehearsal, and just have it all written out. So it can get as complicated as arranging something for an orchestra,
right?
Which is, you know, for 80-piece orchestra, which I've done years ago.
Wow. And you have to write all the parts. Now, am I right in thinking, because I was having a conversation one night with our dear friend Katia Riekemann, the incredible sax player from Rod Stewart's band of old, and you did the brass arrangements at East West for Nick Marichal, Brightest in the Dark, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you write for like alto sax or soprano sax or whatever, are they all set to, because you can't tune those, they are set to a specific key, right? They all start.
Well, I mean, they tune them as far as, but they don't change their key of what. So you have to write in a different key. There's, you know, alto sax is an E flat instrument. So if they play a C on their instrument, they're playing a C. It's an actual E flat concert. On the piano, it's an E flat.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Tenor saxophone and a trumpet, if they play a C, it's a B flat, because they're a B flat instrument.
Oh my goodness!
So all that stuff is basically, when you're going to arrange something, you just arrange what you want. You figure out what you want everything to sound like, and then after the fact, you write in the different keys. Although, and now with the software, you don't even have to do that because it does it for you.
That's unbelievable. But that's why. Have you ever done any sessions in Nashville with the 1-4-5 system?
I've not done sessions in Nashville. I did. I was with Debbie Boone, and we played a TV show in Nashville a couple years ago, and I had done an arrangement of How Sweet It Is, that sort of James Taylor from back in the day, right? So I'd written it for a couple horns, and we were doing this TV show, and they had more horns, and I said, well, you can use the more horns if you want. I can write. And I said, no, I'll do it, but the arranger for the TV show. And he said, I need to change your rhythm parts for the guitar player and the bass player into 1-4-5 system. And I'm like, okay, it's a pretty simple, honestly, it's a rock and roll tune. There's not much to it. I'm like, if you need to, you know, go ahead. And they did, and they're just much more sort of used to that.
Right.
I didn't read the 1-4-5, and because I already had the arrangement I had written myself, so
right.
It was all set. I understand what I wouldn't be. I would have to like get into it and sort of practice it to be. You know,
one of our friends who's an award-winning producer lives in Nashville, John Beeland, is on. He's saying he's used the number system his entire career. When Martin and I lived in Nashville for 3 years after the Northridge earthquake, we got a bunch of background singing gigs, and 1-4-5 was explained to me, and you and John will put me right, as if the key is C, 1 is C, 4 is F, and 5 is G. Yeah.
So it's the number system is what they call it. The number. Yeah. So basically it's just, it's the reason for it specifically in Nashville is you're doing sessions for singers. You know, you're songwriting, you know, they bring in a song and then they're going to have a singer come sing it, but they don't know, or you don't know what key exactly is going to be great for the singer. So you just show up because if you write everything with the actual chord, and then you're going to have to transpose in your head, or you're going to have to go back and
rewrite it.
Oh, this needs to be up a minor third or down a second or something for the singer. But if it's just in numbers, it doesn't matter. You just say, what key are we starting in?
Right. So if one is C and it's too low, and 1 becomes D.
Yeah.
Or
we'll do this up in, you know, we'll do this in E, or we'll do this or
E becomes 1, and then the 4th note, and then the 5th note. Yeah. It's pretty smart. John's just saying it cuts down on sheet music too.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's it. And because in that sort of style of music, particularly, what they're going to play is sort of decided on this is for rhythm section stuff, right? You're not going to do a number system for horn parts because they need to be written. But that comes after the rhythm tracking. You know, this is for rhythm tracking mainly.
Right. Yeah. It's a really smart system, actually, if you think about it. And it would probably be easier in the initial stages to teach children music if you.
It is. The thing is, it's not. It doesn't. None of the notes are specific. It's just there's just chords. So you need to have the kind of playing and the style and the genre. You have to be competent and be able to play it before you even get there.
Right.
And if you want specific lines to be played, then that gets a little more complicated, especially if it's intricate stuff where you're having him play this line and I'm going to play this counter line to it, and we're going to do this sort of interconnected stuff. Yeah, then it doesn't really work because you can't notate that on that.
No, I was going to say there's no notation, but instead of scaring kids to death with, you know, G, B, D, F, A, F, A, C, E, blah, blah, at the piano, if you actually taught them numbers, like, for example, when my dear stepbrother was writing Golden Slumbers, he didn't know he was writing Golden Slumbers. He had a tune in his head, and I was learning the piano, courtesy of being forced, like everyone else on here. And one of the pieces that my piano teacher sent me home with was called Golden Slumbers, and it was by Thomas Dekker from the 15th or 16th century. And it was up on our piano stand. And all I knew, because Anne refused to teach me, she said, I'm not teaching my own daughter, we'll just get into it. Just give that to a professional. And all Paul knew at the time was that on our piano, when the lock was in the middle, it was an upright, and when you opened the lock with the key,
that was middle C.
That was middle C. And that was all we both knew at the time. And so I'm trying to pick out the notes. I'm strangling this song to death. And he came in, presumably hungover, Sunday morning, comes into the dining room, and he's like, move over, shove over on the piano stool. What is it you're looking at there? A bunch of dots, a bunch of ants running around, you know, whatever. And so we start to try and slowly pick this thing out. And he's like, what is this? He picks up the sheet music. I said, it's called Golden Slumbers, and it's by this poem called Thomas Dekker from, I don't know, 500 years ago. And he's like, yippee. And I'm like, well, what do you mean, yippee? He said, I'm going to pick some of this out, and that's going on the next album, and it's out of copyright. It's public domain.
Perfect. Nice.
So you see, if I hadn't been strangling Golden Slumbers, we wouldn't have had the Beatles song to thank for it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, not funny. But literally all we both knew at that stage was the key was opposite middle C. But if I'd have been told that in this particular instance, because it was in C, that C was 1, right, and you could write numbers about, you know, if
I remember though, then when we got another piano and the lock was at the top.
Oh, that
would be absolutely true.
They'd be in trouble then.
That confused the crap out of you, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh God, that's absolutely crazy. So you've also got a couple of releases of your own out, and I obviously your wife is from Brazil, and you met her. I love. There's just something completely like Japan is whole nother country. There's something completely different about Brazilian jazz, isn't there? I mean, technically, is there an explanation for that, or is it just the way it grooves, or both?
No, it's the rhythm is what you're feeling. So, Brazil has it's a big African influence, like, American jazz and R&B and all that, and blues.
Music in general.
Right. So, but it's sort of presented in a different way as far as the grooves. So there's a bunch of traditional, like dance rhythms and drums and all that stuff. And then in the 60s, they sort of started being influenced by American jazz. And so they brought the harmonies sort of from here. Well, I mean, they had classical harmony down there and all that stuff, but the sort of the way that American jazz musicians were putting stuff together really influenced them, but they put the Brazilian rhythms under it. So that's what it is. They took the samba and they sort of slowed it down, or took parts of the samba and became a bossa nova.
Right.
Yes.
Which means a new beat. Is that right?
A new thing, technically, I think. But but that was not the people's music. That was sort of the upper middle class loft people living in Rio,
martini drinking,
cars, and and wooing the girls and stuff.
The Ipanema Beach people.
Yeah. So then the northern Brazil, Bahia, there's more aggressive, if you want to say, sort of beats and grooves and music and super fun stuff.
Interesting.
So it's all great,
Have you ever been down to Curitiba in the south?
No, my wife's from Sao Paulo, so we spent time there. I've been to Rio. I've been to Salvador, which is Bahia, and I've been to Recife, which is even further north.
Okay.
Very African areas up there for sure. Matter of fact, we were in Salvador on vacation, which is the oldest city in South America. It's at the very tip of, if it goes all the way out, it's the closest sort of from Africa. And it was the original, like the oldest and the longest slave trade in all the Americas was there.
Wow.
So there's a huge influence of African food and music and dance and all that stuff. And we were down at this really nice hotel, but it was kind of off season, so there wasn't very many people there. And they have a great breakfast, set up you go down and have this amazing breakfast. So one morning I go down there and the place is packed with Black American women.
Okay.
And I finally went up at the salad bar, or the fruit bar, and I said, I just have to ask you, where are you all from? What is going on? Right. And the lady said, this is a group of women, African American women, who want to get more in touch with their African roots.
How fantastic.
Oh.
But going to Africa is it's further,
it's a flip.
Expensive, and where are you going to go? Where are you going to, some places it's just a no-go, and it's like, okay. So it was just much easier and a better deal for them to come down to Salvador, where they still get a very African experience and be taken around and learn and dance.
That's interesting. Yeah.
How fantastic. So it's sort of like Africa West.
It is. It's very much so.
Very cool. Well, if you ever do know that you're going to Curitiba, please tell me in advance, because our friend Manu Bufara is just been named. She has a Restaurante Manu. She's just by World's 50 Best, which is part of the whole Nestle. It's like Michelin, James Beard, whatever, World's 50 Best. She's just been named the best chef in all of the continent of South America.
All right. Not so bad.
If you're getting to Curitiba, let me know.
Absolutely.
And I'll get her to squeeze you in there, because she keeps bees, and she has community gardens, and she feeds, because she makes so much money at this 5-star restaurant.
Right.
She just gives it all back. She's got gardens where she's growing, vegetables, and she's founded the Curitiba Honey Company, and Manu is just fantastic. You and your wife would just
sounds great.
Her and her husband, she's got 2 little girls, but she's just an incredible chef. That's just amazing. John Beeland is asking, do you have a favorite producer that you've ever worked for, or production that you've ever worked on?
Oh, I don't know.
It's hard. It's like choosing your kids, isn't it?
Yeah.
Music.
I don't know. I mean, actually Steve produced some things that they hired me on, which were kind of fun. I worked on Rod Stewart's Standards record.
Yeah.
So being at Capitol Studios and Rod's there, like hanging out.
That's nice.
You know, that was kind of fun.
Did you steal a coffee mug? I did.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paula.
Yeah. No, Al Schmidt would have given me one, but I didn't.
But were you wearing a tie?
I was not. No, this was a little more relaxed than that. It's LA.
No, but Al Schmidt was.
Oh, Al Schmidt. Oh, yeah, for sure. No, I'm the musician, so you're excused.
Yeah, the people in the control room all had to wear ties when Nico Bolas was doing a ton of stuff for him. I went thrift shopping and sent Nico like 50 ties. One for a week. Every week he had to work with Al.
Yeah.
You were a tie.
So yeah, that Rod Stewart record was amazing.
Mm.
I didn't realize you had played on that. I'll have to go back.
Yeah, I did that. I played on a Diana Ross record.
Didn't we, in LA?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we did. We took Mike Raven.
Oh, did we?
Yes.
The things she remembers at 94 and a half.
Yeah.
But me, I'm in one ear and out the other.
Sure.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, Rod was cool. He just wanted to he wanted to pick the guitar player's brain about guitars the whole time. So
and draw things on the wall with the Sharpie.
Yeah.
Whoops. Barbara's just saying, your musical path has such a rich, diverse tapestry of influences to our delight. Isn't that nice?
Thank you very much.
Isn't that lovely? So, yeah, you've got a couple of albums out that people can find at quinnjmusic.com.
Yep.
And you're also all over the place on Instagram and Facebook.
For sure.
Find you. And what's next for Quinn? What's coming up?
Oh, who knows? Working. I'm actually going to be in. Where am I going to be? Oh, well, have you ever heard there's a singer named Lea Salonga?
Yes.
Broadway. Yeah. So I'm actually working with her in December.
Okay.
It'll be kind of fun. A couple different things. She's known for Miss Saigon and.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you've worked for Debbie Boone for a while, haven't you?
I'm her musical director for the last 5 or 6 years now. We actually have a little mini tour coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll be out on the East Coast, sort of Connecticut and Pennsylvania and Annapolis. I think we're at the Count Basie Theater in New Jersey.
Nice.
So that's in mid-September, like the 17th to the 22nd or something.
Which is around the corner. By the time you drag the bins out in and out twice more, there it is.
Yeah.
No, I'm actually as soon as we're done here, I'm going on to the calling, making sure everybody's cool because I'm sort of advancing in contracting and everything. So.
Well, and people can find you at quinnjmusic.com, and our regulars will know that our beloved guests don't get out alive without a limerick. So, because Ange has, she's the limerick lady, and she has a limerick book out, Mrs. McCartney's Liverpool Limericks. So, if you're ready, we usually screw it up the first time. It's because of the wine.
Okay.
If we do, we'll just do it twice.
We'll fix it in post, and it'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Fix it in post, yes. Okay.
And a 1, 2, 3. 'Twas grand to spend time with you, Quinn. Your talents make melodies spin. Making music so sweet, no one can compete. A maestro whose tunes always win. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Yay, thank you.
Okay,
you go.
Don't give up your day job.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much. And everybody go check out quinnjmusic.com. And his stuff is streamable and downloadable. Please don't rent your music. Please buy your music because our musicians need to pay their mortgages and health insurance. Just a little note from me. And thanks again for joining us. And we will see you kids all of a sudden.
Cheers.
Yeah, and Quinn.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
God bless.